Now let's come to the startup section, right? So there are some tweaks in the startup section that has been done, right? So uh, so startups, one is like startup has to get registered with the government of India, right? So, and then if it wants to claim the exemption under section 80IC, it is required to get registered under section 80I, uh, 80IAC, right? So it has to take an approval from Inter-Ministerial Board of Certification, right? So what has been provided till date is that if uh, uh, if there is a change in shareholding of more than 51%, then section 79 says that the losses cannot be carried forward, right? But there is an exception in case of section 80 IAC registered startups, that they can claim the carry forward losses in the first 7 years of their incorporation, right? So now through this budget, this time limit has been increased from 7 years to 10 years. This is a small change. This is a small benefit that has been given to 80 IAC registered startups, right? And the second is that, as Alok mentioned in the introduction, right, that some time period has been extended for 80 ICA uh, registered startups, right? So earlier this limit was up to March 2023. Now this has been increased to March 24. So whatever companies gets incorporated next year, which is like financial year 23-24, they would also be eligible to get themselves registered under 80 IAC. So this is a small change on startups.
Balwan, one on the previous slide, one question, if I may ask or interject you right now, although certain audience is also asking certain question, but I have the privilege to be the moderator, so I can interject as well the speakers, right? So, but very important question here. Wasn't this 10 years already there? I mean, this change of 51%, okay, it's a new provision, but wasn't this any 3 years out of the 10 years, or it has 7 moved to 10 now?
Yes, Balwan.
So 10 year, in the first 10 years, you were eligible to claim this deduction, right?
Right.
So 7 years out of 10, right?
Sumit, the provision is that you can claim a deduction of profits for 3 years out of 10 years.
Right.
When initially this section came, it was 3 out of 7 years.
Okay, but
that was increased to 3 out of 10 years. Now, to bring it pari materia, even section 79, the period was increased from 7 years to 10 years.
Oh, okay, understand.
That's the small change in 79 that they've done.
Okay. And also this the certificate of Inter-Ministerial Board of Certification. Now, for example, a startup getting registered with DIPB, that's fairly easy. That that process is online, and I think there are more than 50,000 startups that have got registered, etc. But I was reading somewhere that less than 1% of those startups have received this Inter-Ministerial Board of Certification, and I have myself personally experienced, professionally experienced that this certificate is very hard to get. There are so many to and fro's from the department online, and it's very difficult to get this tax exemption certificate. So any experience you would like to share over there?
Sumit, you're right. I mean, this has been our experience as well. Getting this kind of a certification from the Interministerial Board is not easy, though we've got one. But what the board is looking at is a real cutting-edge technology, a real innovative product, and then only they're willing to give any such kind of a certificate. So, to my mind, this section is largely, in letter, and a lot of people try and avail this or try and seek a registration here, but fail to do so because they are unable to clearly explain how is their product very innovative, or how is it different from competition, and what is it that it's going to do, which is something very phenomenal. So
Yeah, that's exactly what our experience also is. While it looks great on the section that startups and 3 years 100% deduction, etc. But to get this certificate, if it takes so much of procedure and forget the procedure, the chances are very very less of getting this. It then remains in letter. And that's where I think the government should loosen up their purse strings to effectively, because what is innovative, what is cutting edge, it's so subjective. To the taxman, the startup may not be cutting edge, but to the founder, I mean, the startup is his darling, and he may be doing a wonderful job anyways. So just I thought I'll pick up your brain on that. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
So
Right. And in fact, Sumit, this is being given to the companies which has patent or right patented technology, etc. But like general software companies, etc., are not eligible under this, right? So that's our understanding from the department, that these software companies are not generally covered under this ATI AC.
Sure. Thank you, Alok and Balwan.
Yeah.
Right. So next I'll touch upon this angel tax, right? So what has happened is that there was a lot of issues earlier under angel tax, right? So but the government brought that exception that if it is a registered startup, then capital premium received would not be taxable. Premium received from premium received on issue of shares is not taxable, right? So section 56(2)(7)(b), which is section of angel tax, says that if you have issued shares at premium, and premium is not justified by its fair market value, then the premium gets taxable, right? So but there are few exceptions that were brought in, right? So one was that if it is a registered startup, then angel tax is not applicable, right? If the money is received from AIF or non-resident, right, then angel tax is not applicable. And if the shares are issued at fair market value as per valuation report, then angel tax is not applicable, right? So now it has been proposed that from this list non-resident shall be taken out, right? So now only exception that would be available would be to, one is registered startups, second is to AIFs, and third is if the shares are issued at fair market value, right? So these would be just three exceptions that would be available, right? So what is the impact? So it looks very simple, right? So if you are a registered startup, then premium would not be taxable, right? What I have seen is that this is going to create a lot of problem for grown-ups, right? So the startups which has grown to a revenue of say 100 crores, right? So if you are achieved that target, achieved that limit, right? So you are not eligible to get yourself registered as startup, right? And if you receive money from non-resident, in case of generally grown-ups, right? So this money generally uh, received from the foreign companies or the foreign venture capital funds, right? So what is going to happen is that if a grown-up or a grown-up startup receive money from a non-resident, which is generally the case, would not be able to get the benefit of this exception, right? And there is a anti-dilution right which generally a foreign investor takes in SHAs, right? So in what is anti-dilution right? Anti-dilution right is that the investor is eligible to get more number of shares, right? If there is a down round in the future, if the shares are issued at a price lower than the uh, lower than the existing share price, right? So what is going to happen is that take an example, shares are issued at 100 rupees today, right? And and there is a down round in the future, right? So what happens is that to protect that down round, so investor get a right that it would get more than one share against 100 rupees that he has given to get one share earlier, right? So how it is being done till today is that the valuation report is generally at a price, say less than 100, which generally 70, 75, 80, 85 rupees, right? So there is a margin of say 20%, 20% or so in the valuation report, right? So if there is a down round, so this 20%, uh, uh, you know, 20% margin protects the investor, and investor can get like up to this 20% more shares because the fair market value is lower. But what is going to happen in the future is that these company and these company would be required to have uh, the valuation equal to the price at which shares are being issued, right? So if the valuation is lower than the issue price, then the difference would get taxed, right? So it would be very difficult in that situation, right? So if the face value and issue price is same, then company would not be able to give anti dilution, right. So this is going to be a big issue in the industry, right? So the foreign investor would not be able to get anti dilution right in the future. So this is a big change that is going to impact FDI in the country.
So I think just to add to what Balwan mentioned, we already have a provision under the FEMA, or the Foreign Exchange Management Act, that when you issue shares to a non-resident, those shares should not be issued at less than the FMB or less than the fair market value. But there is no stipulation in FEMA to state that you cannot issue them at a higher price. You're free to issue them at a higher price. But with this kind of a provision now coming in, you have no headroom. You have to actually issue them at the FMB only, right? And what I foresee is that this is going to create more litigation in future. The intention always was that if it's foreign money, if it's coming from outside India, you have KYCs, you have everything. You should allow it to come at a higher valuation, as long as it is not less than the FMP. You should allow it to come. Now, if you want to tax that excess money, then that's going to create a problem. Because why are we stopping the foreign capital? If someone wants to pay more for a share, which is worth 1,000 rupees, and he wants to pay 1,200 for that, India should welcome that, right? If you have a KYC issue, you can plug that, you can use section 68, you can make amendments if required in that section 68. But why get into this kind of a thing? This is giving a handle to the tax officers that if you get any money in premium, they will go and challenge the valuation report. They will try and pick holes in the valuation report, because most of the valuation reports are based on projections, right? And projections are given by clients. And we've seen that a lot of times these projections don't come true. And the tax officer often picks up a case after 2 years or 1.5 years. And then he will say, okay, you had projected that the company will have a turnover of 100 CR, but it has a turnover of only 40 CR, right? Therefore, I reject your valuation report, right? So, all those kind of things, you will have some courts to jump in, protect you and all that, that valuer is not an astrologer. As long as a valuer has done his work diligently, his report cannot be challenged. But this creates an unnecessary harassment for taxpayers.
Yeah, I also want to comment here, Alok. Very true. Even the founders don't have crystal ball when they make projections. They go with all their might and spirit to achieve that. But there are stretch goals, and they may not be able to achieve certain things. So I think fair market value is all a matter of, it's like a price of a share, which should be left in the hands of buyer and the seller, or the company and the investor. Why should the tax, again, assuming anti-money laundering and all those things are taken care of, but I don't think the government has any business to say that, okay, the startup value is this, because one, they have limited understanding, and second, the valuation itself is the art and science, And third, same startup can be valued X by some investor and 5X by the other, and so many other variables involved. So it's very difficult to say the value. Real value is 1,000 or 2,000. We have seen even listed companies, dropping 50% of their valuation overnight. Doesn't mean intrinsic value is intrinsic value. So to that extent, government should be away from the valuation reports, but and not really challenge, because they are anyway so subjective.
Right. So I think this will come up for a lot of debate in the next few weeks, and hopefully the government will see the light on this and make some changes here.
Welcome to Complinity Technologies. Complinity is India's leading governance, risk and compliance software helping companies to manage their compliance, contracts, litigation, legal updates, inter-financial controls and more. Complinity is a one-stop shop for all GRC needs. With our proprietary 12 GRC modules and real-time legal updates on 2,000 plus laws and 24,000 plus compliances, all in an integrated platform that is easy to use with automated alerts and risk management capabilities, is why compliance managers, general counsels and chief financial officers choose Complinity every time. Join the most innovative and prestigious brands that use Complinity. Automating your compliance management. Request a demo at complinity.com.